Good evening. They say blood is thicker than water. I don't think there should be any disputation around that saying. I'm Guthrie. Tonight on the program, we are joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the National Blood Service, Zimbabwe, Miss Lucy Maroa. Miss Maroa, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Guthrie. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
So it is true that blood is thicker than water, isn't it?
Very, very true indeed. And indeed, life is in the blood, as we say.
Seriously, Miss Maroa, where do you locate yourself and the service within the National Health Services sector value chain?
Well, we say that we are part of the wheels that turn the healthcare sector in Zimbabwe, because we are that valuable link that provides life by providing blood and blood products for the different therapeutic uses that the clinicians need. We are actually a part of the health delivery system, though we are not parastatal. We are actually a private, not-for-profit making organization. We has been given that mandate by the Ministry of Health and Child Care, meaning that we actually fall under the laws of the Republic of Zimbabwe. We serve at the pleasure of the Ministry of Health and Child Care, and we are the only service that's providing this particular service to the country, and only because we have been given permission to do so through the laws of Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. So we provide the blood and blood products to all the hospitals that we have in the country. Then the products that we give, we levy a fee to the hospitals in order to recover the costs that go into providing those services, so that we can then continue to operate into perpetuity. So that's who we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Please exclude me and the thousands of viewers who are watching this program. Mm. Do you sell your blood? Or
right.
do you, let me not say your blood.
Yes.
Do you sell blood?
When you say selling, for us, we cringe, because then it feels like tomatoes, We call it charging a user fee.
Okay.
Because when you talk about selling something, selling is for commodities where you can pick and say, no, I want this one I don't like, this one suits me, and so forth. But this one, we simply charge a user fee. So technically, it's selling and charging, even though you may think they're the same, they are not. Because when the person needs a life-saving intervention in the form of blood and blood products, they do not have a choice. They're paying that user fee in order to access the product that best suits them. They don't have a say, because it is through the tests that we do, we determine what is compatible with the person. They don't have a say. Mm-hmm. So we can only charge in order for us to be able to continue to give the service. So no, we are not selling, because we are not buying milliliters of blood that are sitting in the blood bag. We cannot say we've given you a quarter, we've given you half, so you are paying less. What you are paying for is the value chain that led to you getting a unit of blood that is safe, that will not harm you, but will help you to actually get the best clinical outcome at the end of the day.
Sure.
It's different.
There are many Zimbabweans who were aghast at hearing stories that your user fees.
Yes.
That's why I was saying, do you sell? Because some people are saying that you're not for-profit organization, but you're profiteering. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you are charging a lot of money for blood. So, if I find myself at a public hospital and I need blood, mm-hmm. do I have to have those user fees applied on me?
Very interesting that you should say that. So you've actually answered a very packed question. When you are in a public hospital means government, mission, council, or any other government-supported institution. Mm. When you find yourself needing blood and blood products, they are free. They have been free since July 2018. And this came about when the Second Republic came into power. They made it their mandate to pay all the user fee for anybody that finds themselves in need of blood and blood products in any of those institutions that I've talked about, because they are subsidizing 100%. in public institutions since July 2018. And when we say this, people say, no, that is not true. But these people have not been to the government institutions. But that is the correct position on the ground right now. And I'm saying again, if you have been charged a user fee in a government institution, you need to go and report to the hospital authorities. Bring your receipts and tell them that you have been charged the whatever amount, because government is paying National Blood Service for those products that have been used in those institutions. So that's the correct position right now. But you also talked about the issue of us profiteering. I think that's a very loaded question.
Because I know that last month, you know, a lot of people really, after going through your accounts, your financial statements, they were actually saying that these guys are profiteering. And I thought I should find something that will find resonance with the people and with yourselves, because you also had to answer to that.
Yes.
Was it a correct reading of your financials that you made profits?
No, it was not a correct reading. First and foremost, those were 2023 financials, which were denominated in RTGS before the existence of even the ZWA or the ZIG that we are using. So let's be clear. Yet you find that on social media, it was purported that these were USD statements, which was first and foremost untrue. Secondly, when you look at that, yes, there was a surplus that was made. Yes, surplus and profits, if you may be equated to be the same thing. That surplus that was there was very nominal versus the budget that was there. When you are operating whatever budget in an organization and you do make a surplus, what percentage is that surplus versus the budget of the organization? I think that is important. You have to put everything into context. And I think there was another issue to say revenue grew by 272% and everything like that. Yes, it is true, revenue grew by 272% because we distributed more units than we did the previous year. It's a good thing. The previous year we had not done much because we were emerging from COVID. We were failing to meet the supplies for blood and blood products to the nation. That particular year we had done well. We had supplied more. So it was just number of units times whatever we were charging at that time. That was the revenue. But whether we actually got paid for those services or not, that's a different ballgame altogether. And when you look at our debtors record at that stage, most of our money was sitting in debtors, meaning we had distributed these products but never got payments. Our cash flows were suffering. A lot of activities had not been done for that year. Things were not moving, in other words. So we're doing the best that we could under very constrained circumstances. So these things need to be taken into context. You need somebody who's got financial dexterity to be able to look through these things and put everything together. You can't just do 2 lines and say you know financial statements. It doesn't work like that. And it's normal, by the way, for an organization to break even and sometimes post some surpluses so that it continues as a going concern. That is normal. But when you make super profits, then it becomes a problem, which we did not. Yeah.
Well, I don't think I might have to possess that financial dexterity to be able to look at what you have said, because what you have said, I tend to nod my head.
Thank you.
Please join us in the second segment as we discuss blood and blood service by the National Blood Service Zimbabwe. And we are with its Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Luce Maroa. Welcome back. Tonight on the program, we are proud to have the Chief Executive Officer of National Blood Service Zimbabwe, Ms. Luce Maroa, talking about this special, I don't want to call it ingredient to life, but this special product for deciding whether we should live or we shouldn't live. Ms. Maroa, the issue that always pops up when people who are in the private sector are having to meet their obligation of paying those user fees demanded by a situation that might be either emergency or that might end up being an emergency situation, is that if I am a blood donor, why is it that you cannot use my status to treat any of my relatives for free? How do you deal with the issues that relate to blood donors who might not have a similar surname to the one that is actually needing the service?
That's actually a common question that comes to our offices. We have what we call a donor benefits policy, where if you are a blood donor, you have given a minimum of 10 times if you're an adult. And your last donation has been made within the last 12 months. We can give you blood products for yourself and immediate family. But we qualify what is called immediate family. Immediate family would be spouse, siblings, spouse, children, and parents. Siblings do not qualify. We then say also, if you are a student who is still in school, your minimum donations should have been at least 3, because we know they are young. 10 might be too much to ask. But the last donation should have been made within the last 12 months. Again, if this is a student unmarried, we are then saying parents also qualify to get that benefit. So if the surname is different, we just need a document that links the two of you. Your parent, you can link through a birth certificate, for example. It's common practice that a mother and their children can have different surnames, but the birth certificate then can link that. But you cannot bring an uncle, you cannot bring a father-in-law, because they also have their own children and they should benefit through that. Otherwise, if we do that, everybody would then link their uncle, their aunts from the neighbors and everything. It becomes uncontrollable, and it is for a good cause. So whenever we have that donor benefits, you can access as much as you like, and a lot of people have benefited from that. The only gap that is there right now is that people need to know that if you are admitted in a private institution, you access the facility from the blood service, not from the institution. The institution and the blood service are two different entities. So if you then tell the hospital that I'm a blood donor, the institution has nothing to do with that. Your relative has to contact their blood service, and the blood service will take over from there.
Sure.
I think that is the missing link for a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know that we had COVID, and then after COVID, the service was resumed. But there were also challenges because of, a very low blood bank. And from time to time, we hear that the blood bank is very low.
Yes.
What are you doing to make sure that at any given time, you have a blood bank that can actually allow you to dispense of the services without any critical issues?
One of the things that we are trying to do is to make sure that we promote adult blood donation. I think since time immemorial, we have relied a lot on school-going donors, which we feel is that it's very unsustainable going forward. What we need are more adults stepping up to take up their responsibility. Whilst a lot of the blood comes from the youth, most of the usage is with the adults. You will find that a lot of blood goes into accidents and trauma, maternity, surgery, etc. So that actually affects most of the adult population. So it's only right that we also skew the donation patterns in favor of the adults. So we need to promote adult donations. That's why we go into a lot of partnerships with organizations and bring about blood donations in the corporate spaces. So we have a lot of adult donor panels that are coming up, a lot of initiatives that we are taking up to promote adult blood donations. Yes.
And, people have actually said that part of the reasons why, which might not have been, said repeatedly in public, why you tend to go to, students for blood donations or young people for blood donations is that they are safe. Yeah. So if you are going to promote, adult blood donations, how then do you make sure that you deal with the issues that relate to HIV and other diseases that have actually slowed down donations in previous years?
It's actually quite a myth, I must say. You know that the reason why adults don't donate is not really because they are not safe. It's an issue of time. They are busy. They are in the workplace. So it's difficult to access them in the workplace. They don't have the time to walk into our clinics. For example, if we are here in Harare, for an adult to come from Eastgate to Mazoe Street to go and give blood is difficult, or even for them to go to Joina City, they don't have the time because the only time they have is lunchtime. But when we go to a school, the students are there, they can move from their class into the designated place. We just need to go to where they are, and the adults actually turn up. And you'll find that an adult who turns up for blood donation is fairly sure of who they are. And when we give our pre-donation counseling and so forth, those who are unsure tend to self-defer. And those who actually proceed with the donations are pretty sure of who they are and the lifestyle that they live. So those are actually myths. Our statistics don't show that the adults are as unsafe as people claim to be. It's just something we need to talk about. Mm-hmm. People are actually afraid of these myths because that's what they hear, but it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are strategies that you are using to make sure that you deal with this issue of these people not having time? The potential adult blood donors, because you're saying they don't have time. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there should be some strategies of dealing with this.
That's why we are now going to them. That's why we've opened up a number of these partner-sponsored blood drives. For example, we have popular ones like your Big Sky Pomona, where we have partnered with Big Sky. And when we have that blood donation panel, all the business people around that area will come to that, around the Pomona area. If we do the Alliance one in Bulawayo, all the people around that area will move into that because there are also incentives offered by those particular partners. When we do the return one, people will come in because they want the 5-liter fuel coupons, things like that. So partner sponsors, and that's why we call upon even other corporates to say, come in. Auto World is another one we have in Chisipiti. Then everybody around the Chisipiti area will come in. So partner sponsored blood drives have become very popular because they'll draw all the people around that particular business area into those particular blood drives. So maybe 3KTV can also then organize one, and the whole of Eastgate can then donate at that particular one.
Sure.
Yes.
Please join us in the final segment as we bring to a close this week's program, where we have been in discussion with the CEO of the National Blood Service Zimbabwe, Miss Lucy Maroa. This is the tail end of this week's program, and if you're just joining us, we've been in discussion with the National Blood Service CEO, Miss Lucy Maroa, and we've been talking about the blood service and other blood service products. Miss Maroa, I think it is only fair to say that because you actually expanding your source of blood donations into that crucial category of the adult blood donors. So can you confidently say that when you combine what comes from the youth and the adults, we're not going to have a lot of challenges with a depleted blood bank? Or it is work in progress? I
think it is work in progress, and it has really, we have seen a gradual improvement. You would find that towards the end of the school holiday, we would suffer quite a lot. But now we have done our adult panels in such a way that we have now scheduled these mostly during the school holidays. So when the schools close, then the adult panels, all of them now start to kick in, to take over and fill in that particular gap. That has really smoothened our collection curve. We haven't reached 100%, but it's work in progress, and we are quite encouraged by the responses we are receiving. But more still needs to be done, and it will take maybe a year or two until we really reach a smooth collection curve. But we continue to push. And I think we are seeing also a gradual decline. Previously, you'd find that over 80% of our collections were coming in from the schools. But now we are somewhere down to about 70. 10% reduction is quite a lot, eh? And I think as we go on, we'll move towards 60 and maybe to get to 50-50. And I think that will be remarkable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are doing quite well.
Mm-hmm. Why is it important that people, they have got to donate blood? Why is it important that people should not just only be given sweeteners, to be able to donate blood. Why is this blood so crucial?
When you need blood, you need blood. When you need the platelets and you are bleeding, you need platelets. When you need plasma, you need plasma. When you need factor, whether it's factor 8 or factor 9, that's all you need. Those are some of the blood products that you need there. Whatever it is that the medical procedure, when it needs a blood product, sometimes there is no replacement. It takes you to see your relative or yourself going through something that requires the blood products to really understand that sometimes there are no substitutes. And only a timely intervention will make a difference between life and death. That's why we need to have our blood bank stocked at any given time. And we need to make sure that we take it upon ourselves as citizens of Zimbabwe to make sure we provide enough for our own needs. We never know when you and I could need it, or the next person who is closest to us. We don't want to lose lives unnecessarily over things that we could have helped ourselves as citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know there are many blood types, but we often hear that the common one, which is the O type, is the one that is normally in short supply. Are we seeing a heartening increase in the number of the O donations?
Yes. We get a lot of the blood group O. But the strangest thing about O is that it's plentiful in supply, but it's also the fastest to be depleted, because about 52% of the Zimbabwean population are blood group O, meaning that we get it at 52% into the blood bank. But when it also leaves the blood bank, it leaves out faster as well, because you're also going to find about 52% of the patients in the hospital are also blood group O. So it gets consumed much faster. So that's why it is always in short supply. So sometimes we then have to do targeted collections where we will walk into a room and then take blood only from the O's, and then sometimes have to say to the A's and the B's, I'm sorry, we are not taking from you today. But it's not easy to turn away someone who has presented themselves voluntarily and say, for today, we don't really need your blood. It's not very easy. So, yeah, it's a balancing act, but we try.
Mm-hmm. And just before, we conclude, which sort of medical procedures that really do demand a lot of blood, and which procedures do demand less? Because when you collect, like you've just been telling me that, at times it's so difficult to turn somebody away and say, no, they're not collecting this type of blood. So it's so important for people to understand this. So
let me say that I think we notice our greatest use is in accidents and trauma, as well as maternity, and also from the oncology unit, the cancer wards. Those are the three great users of our blood. The medical wards, yes, some few other cases. I can't really tell you to say these diseases will require less blood and so on, because there are multiple diseases that would require transfusion. But I can say those three units, accidents and trauma, maternity, and the oncology units, become our greatest users of blood and blood products. And they have a variety of conditions under those three categories where blood will be used indeed.
Sure.
Yeah.
So can we confidently say that at any given time, your blood bank, even if it is depleted, is got enough to look particularly at addressing these three critical areas?
I think for the greater part of this year, we've really tried. And I think I've gone to the media and said, we are not in a crisis. And right now, I can tell you, we are not in a crisis, but we still want more so that we never get into a crisis. We have had great support from our donors. We have new donors also coming in, and the country has been adequately stocked. We are sitting on about 5 days stock, which is the greatest state we can ever be as a nation. But let's maintain it throughout, and then we'll be good to go as a country. But we are not in a crisis at all.
May that long continue.
Thank you.
Finally, Ms. Marowa, do you believe that currently, with all things that have been happening within the health services sector, you believe that you don't need any other intervention, even if you're a private organization, any other intervention other than just having glad and willing blood donors?
Oh, I would be lying if I were to say anything of that sort. In as much as blood is free for the public sector, I understand also the frustration from the private sector. I think it's another area that can be explored as well. We've also heard other stories where people say, even in the public sector, as much as we say the blood is for free, we are not accessing that free blood at all. I think let's have an intervention to see whether this is actually true or it is not true. So there's a lot that we still need to do. There might be a gap whereby I'm supplying for free, and maybe the end user is not getting it. I'm not saying this is the truth, but we're saying let's look at it and see whether what is supposed to happen is exactly what is happening on the ground. So yeah, and even for ourselves, as much as we are saying whatever we are charging is what it takes to produce that unit of blood, let's do more to make sure that we can do the best that we can for our citizens. We still need to do the best we can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having made time to be with us on this program tonight. We sincerely hope that a lot of Zimbabweans will see the importance of having to donate freely and cheerfully.
Thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. Thank you, Catherine.
Sure. Blood will always be thicker than water, and the blood can never have a substitute, especially where it is needed. Good night.